Hey, good morning and happy Monday. This is Wendy with Thoughts of a Social Worker. I hope you've had a phenomenal week. As you can see, I still have a big blank wall back there, but my hope is this weekend I will have that full of color that inspires me and maybe inspires you as you're watching as well. So this is going to be part 2 of the conflict resolution series. Remember, part 1 was talking about conflict resolution in general, and we kind of also identified that first step, which is for you to be able to be aware of what's going on through your senses and through the environment, that being able to look at the person you may be having conflict with and be able to tell that things are beginning to escalate. So part 2 is going to be about emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, which is a very, very important concept that many of us struggle with developing. And part of that reason, I personally believe, is because we've become a society that's so focused on immediate gratification and not allowing people to be in the moment and to feel what they're feeling, no matter what it is, whether it's sadness or depression or extreme happiness or melancholy or whatever it is. Part of being emotionally intelligent is being able to identify, understand, and manage emotions across the board. And so, and a very, very important piece to conflict resolution is being able to identify what your emotions are, as well as the emotions of the person that you are engaging in with conflict. Once you're able to identify emotions, then especially for you, you're able to maybe identify that I am escalating and I need to get to a place of where I am a little bit more calm, and you can remove yourself from the situation. And vice versa, if you see the person that you are engage in a conversation with, and you're able to begin to see that there are maybe some things happening, for instance, name calling, emotional jabs, or below the belt, some people call them. I call them emotional sucker punches myself, because when we get in the heat of the moment and we are not emotionally intelligent and we are not able to manage our emotions effectively, we tend to say some really hurtful things. And I am 1,000% guilty of that. In my younger years, man, I said some horrible things to people that I said that I loved. And then when you go back later and try to apologize, that's kind of tough, because once you've said something, again, in my opinion, I think it's a lot worse to say something that's incredibly hurtful in comparison to someone that might do physical harm to you. By no means am I encouraging physical harm, but in my opinion, recuperating or healing yourself from both of those traumas, the emotional trauma is a little bit more difficult to heal from, because we tend to take things very literal and we soak them in like a sponge, and then it's very hard to release them and let them go. So no emotional sucker punches. I've got a couple of resources here that I'm kind of looking at. Emotional intelligence, being able to understand what feelings you have and why. And again, that can be attached to maybe stuff that you haven't quite resolved yet. Maybe insecurities, doubts that you have regarding yourself. Being able to understand what you feel and why you feel it. And knowing that we're not always going to be happy or content. We were made to have emotions, because emotions spark things. Emotions are the catalyst for synergy and for activity. If we did not have the ability to have the array of emotions that we have as human beings, we would not be motivated to make changes or to evolve. And we would probably be extinct without our emotions. So, being able to be sensitive and understand the emotions of others is really important. Had a great workshop I went to Friday. As a provider, especially as a mental health provider, we are constantly working on what we call self-care, meaning that we take care of ourselves. And I have said that terminology to you guys before, so it's not a new one. Self-care, taking care of you. As a mental health provider, though, it is kind of pounded into our head from day one that we are to have empathy, meaning that we're able to kind of see and understand and maybe try to feel what our clients experience. And this particular trainer's perspective was that rather than trying to have empathy, which means that we're trying to feel what that person maybe is feeling, and sometimes it's a lot of traumatic stuff that we are kind of taking in as mental health providers, that instead of being empathetic, that we become compassionate, which means that we just understand and validate and know that there are some things going on with that client, but we don't have to experience those same feelings with that client. So this concept of having empathy for other people, I'm going to say empathy / compassion, and it'll be up to you to do your research and your homework on those two and utilizing them maybe interchangeably or one versus the other. I'm working on being more compassionate rather than being empathetic, just for my own mental health place as a provider. Making sure that you're able to control your temper. And of course, you know, our personalities are like fingerprints. They're unique and they're specific to us. But being able to know that if you've got hot buttons, or you know that you are still working on managing people getting under your skin, then remove yourself from situations where that is beginning to happen. It is perfectly okay and perfectly acceptable to do that. You know what? Hey, I need to go to the restroom. Hey, I'm going to step out for a minute. You know what? Let's shelf this and talk about it later. And I know it sounds really, I'm making it sound really simple, and I know that being in the heat of the moment, it's really tough to do that, because I've been there too. That something that you're incredibly passionate about, and you're having this conversation, and people have differences of opinion, and maybe they don't express them in a way that is appropriate, and we get our buttons pushed. We all have buttons, but being able to identify them is part of that emotional intelligence. So that's kind of the really quick down and dirty of part 2 of being able to manage your conflict. One is being aware of your feelings, and being able to ground yourself. The next step is being able to be emotionally in tune with you and others around you. You might not be able to identify specifically what somebody is feeling, but we all know if someone is becoming escalated, or if someone isn't getting incredibly emotional because of the conversation we're having. And it is our responsibility to be in tune enough with one another that we're able to identify that, and we're able to manage and redirect our actions and behaviors accordingly. So that's kind of it. I hope you have a phenomenal week. I would love to say I'm going to get part 3 to you this week, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But I am going to announce pretty quickly my project that I've been working on. I'm going to have it up and running in May. And so I will be giving you some information on that. And I hope that you check it out and let me know your thoughts. So have a great week. Stay positive. Know that you have control over your ability to manage conflict resolution. And hopefully this information I'm sharing with you will help. So take care.